Where are they? People asked for years. On holiday, unwell, moved away. That's what Victoria told friends, neighbours, doctors and the police.
Cheer up, at least you caught the bad guy.
It all began with a concern that seemed routine at first. A doctor's office in Essex had been trying to reach John and Lois McCullough for months. Regular checkups turned into a series of missed appointments. Calls went unanswered, letters sent got no reply. The McCulloughs, once in regular contact, had gone silent. At first, the doctors assumed it could be something simple, a move perhaps. Life can be busy and sometimes people forget. But this didn't feel like forgetfulness. Something was wrong. Why would they vanish without a word? By the summer of 2023, the growing unease could no longer be ignored. Concerned for their well-being, the doctors alerted authorities. This would set off a chain of events that would unravel a dark secret hidden in the McCullough family home, a secret that had been concealed for 4 years. The last time anyone had seen John and Lois McCullough was in June 2019. It was a normal summer, and the elderly couple had simply started canceling plans here and there. Those who knew the couple were aware of their quiet lifestyle and the reasons that had become even quieter in recent years. Lois had long struggled with anxiety and agoraphobia, a condition that made it difficult for her to leave the house, as she often felt overwhelmed in open or crowded spaces. John's own health concerns, diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and glaucoma, made it easier for their daughter Virginia to explain away their absence when the COVID-19 pandemic hit in early 2020. The lockdown restrictions in place, combined with the couple's existing health issues, created the perfect cover. Friends and neighbors accepted Virginia's explanations without question, assuming the McCulloughs were isolating to protect themselves. As time went on and life began to return to normal, Virginia became increasingly skilled at maintaining the facade. She shifted her story, telling friends and family that her parents had moved to Clacton to enjoy the seaside, or that they were on extended holidays. Other times she claimed they were ill and needed rest. These varied stories fit the narrative she had built, especially since lingering concerns about COVID meant that many people were still cautious about visiting loved ones. For years, these lies went unquestioned. Given the couple's known health struggles and reclusive tendencies, no one suspected anything was amiss. Virginia's explanations were enough to satisfy casual inquiries. She made sure to keep anyone from coming too close, telling just enough to keep her story intact. The quiet home in Great Battle remained unnoticed, hiding the truth behind its walls. Virginia carefully constructed a web of lies that spanned years, ensuring her parents' disappearance stayed concealed. She acquired multiple SIM cards to send texts to her sisters, pretending they were from John and Lois. The messages were filled with everyday details, updates about their health, casual notes about extending their seaside stay, each one designed to keep her siblings from growing suspicious. She also called emergency services, posing as her parents to report minor neighborhood disturbances like a suspicious car or noise complaints. These small acts helped create the impression that John and Lois were still actively present in the community. Virginia even contacted doctors' offices, speaking as her parents, so that nothing seemed out of the ordinary. Holiday and birthday cards became part of the illusion as well. Virginia used an online service to send cheerful messages, ensuring her parents seemed involved in family celebrations despite their absence. Her sisters, receiving these cards signed with love, believed their parents were still a part of their lives. In phone conversations, Virginia would disguise her voice to sound like their mother, sharing brief, friendly chats that added another layer of authenticity to her deception. Each of these actions, woven together over the years, made her story seamless and convincing. For a long time, her intricate ruse worked. Her family accepted the story she told, never suspecting their youngest sister was hiding something so sinister. No one could have guessed the real reason John and Lois hadn't been seen in years. Before John and Lois disappeared, Virginia was staying with them, offering occasional help with their daily lives in exchange for not having to pay rent. Her father even gave her extra money, believing she was genuinely trying to find a job. Virginia, however, was using her parents' generosity to support her own habits. She claimed to have various health issues as excuses for why she couldn't work, and at one point, she even pretended to have a job, though she continued to rely on their money behind the scenes. Virginia had access to their credit cards, which she used for online shopping and gambling. When her parents noticed unexplained losses in their accounts, she created stories to cover her tracks. She told them they had been victims of hacking, scams, or banking errors. To add credibility, she would invent ongoing police or corporate investigations, claiming that delays in these processes explained why the money had yet to be returned. Virginia took things further by taking out loans in her parents' names, funneling the money into her gambling and shopping addictions. As debt accumulated and her parents' finances dwindled, she maintained the illusion that all was under control, confident that her explanations would continue to shield her from discovery. However, the weight of the growing deception began to close in. Virginia knew it was only a matter of time before John and Lois discovered the full extent of her lies and betrayal. Desperation pushed her to devise a plan, one that would remove any risk of exposure and allow her to continue using their money without interference. By September 2023, the walls were closing in on Virginia McCullough. The family doctor had grown increasingly concerned after months of missed medication pickups and unkept appointments. The doctor's suspicions mounted, prompting his report to social services, who then involved the police. When officers contacted Virginia, she stuck to her usual story. She claimed that her parents were on holiday and wouldn't return until October. But this time, the police weren't convinced. They launched a missing persons investigation, digging deeper into the McCullough situation. What they uncovered pointed to something far more disturbing. Investigators discovered that Virginia had been collecting her parents' pension checks for years, even calling them herself and posing as her father to keep the payments coming. She collected benefits intended for elderly residents, such as winter heating subsidies, using her parents' information. To maintain her lifestyle, she opened new credit cards under their names, racking up debt in secret. The mounting evidence revealed a trail of lies and fraud, all centered around an elderly couple who remained conspicuously missing while their daughter continued living in their home. Something wasn't right, and the authorities knew it. When the police arrived at the McCullough home, they weren't there for a simple welfare check. They were there to arrest Virginia on suspicion of murder. Officers confronted her at the doorway of the house where she had lived alone for years. Faced with their suspicions and the mounting evidence against her, Virginia didn't resist. With an eerie calm, she admitted the unthinkable.
The time is 12:12. You're under arrest on suspicion of murder against Jonathan McCullough and Lois McCullough. Okay? You don't have to say anything, but it may harm defence. You do not mention when in question, so it's like want anything to do so with your business. Okay?
Virginia's confession was just the beginning of a horrifying story. She revealed that her plan had been to eliminate both of her parents in a single night. She crushed their prescription medication and mixed it into their nightcaps, hoping the alcohol would mask the bitterness. Her father drank his without suspicion, slipping into unconsciousness, and eventually stopped breathing sometime during the night. However, the next morning, Virginia's mother, Lois, awoke. The poison had not taken full effect. Desperate and panicking, Virginia grabbed a hammer and attacked her mother, striking her several times. But when the blows didn't immediately end Lois's life, she escalated further. Grabbing a knife, she stabbed her mother multiple times. Virginia accidentally cut her own hand during this brutal act and visited a doctor that morning to treat it. Knowing she needed to explain her injury, she claimed she had cut herself while preparing a meal, creating an innocent cover story that would mask the truth of what had happened. What she did next was as methodical as it was chilling. Virginia placed her father's body in a sleeping bag and began constructing a makeshift tomb. Using concrete garden paving stones, she built a low wall around his body right there in the small room he used as his study. To conceal the gruesome scene, she then placed a mattress over the top, transforming the space into something that appeared normal at first glance. Virginia had managed to turn the room into a hidden mausoleum, one that would go unnoticed for years. She placed her mother's body in a sleeping bag as well. Sealing it with tape, she placed it into the couple's bedroom closet. Using the concrete paving stones, she built another homemade tomb, as she had done with her father. The closet, once a personal space for the couple, became another concealed grave.
Yep, okay. Obviously I'll
What about
say,
your
a little bit more complicated.
Okay.
That's why I said, can I go upstairs and show
Right,
you?
can you
If
explain
wanna
it to
bring
us, please? Because
officers,
we're trying to preserve this. It's now going to be seen, so we need to preserve this the best we can. So I don't want you to have you walking up there, all right? Because that's for your well-being as well as ours.
Oh, no, up.
Okay.
Up.
So what?
Thank you.
Where
Can I grab some
will we
hairbands
find your mum?
as well, if possible?
Where will we find your mum?
Okay, so upstairs there are about 5 wardrobes.
Yep.
It's behind the bed, but back next to the sink. That's the second one.
When questioned further, Virginia would tell police exactly where they could find the weapon she had used. She described the hammer with unsettling precision, noting its rusted head and stating that traces of blood would likely still be on it.
So next bit is very hard to talk about. That's probably the most grisly detail. So on the ground floor, underneath the stairs, there's a few like storage boxes and things. And in the middle, I think it's in one of the boxes or in a bag or something. If you want me to shush after this, it's fine. But every bit helps. You will find forensically it's helpful. There's a hammer. I know, but I'm trying to help so you find everything. It's in the middle underneath the stairs. It will still have blood on it. It's rusted, but it will still have blood traces on it.
Even with the horrific nature of her confession, she remained calm and detached. At one point, she even joked with the officers, while the dreadful reality that had been hidden for years lay just feet away from where they stood.
Cheer up, at least you caught the bad guy.
I'm just waking up today and done my job. No.
Her words and demeanor were chilling. For years, she had concealed the truth and lived in the same space as her victims, maintaining the illusion of a quiet life. Now, as she faced the consequences, she seemed almost resigned, as if she had accepted her fate long before the police had even arrived. All of this would eventually be brought up in court. Virginia McCullough pled guilty to 2 counts of murder, sparing the need for a full trial. Evidence revealed that she was already 60,000 pounds in debt before the murders, and that she had taken approximately 160,000 pounds in pension payments and benefits over the years. This was on top of the loans and credit cards she had fraudulently obtained in her parents' names. The scale of her fraud, the premeditation of her crimes, and the elaborate lies she maintained over the years led the court to consider a whole life order. Such sentences are reserved for the most extreme cases, like those of Rosemary West, convicted of murdering 10 people, or Trevor Hardy, a serial killer responsible for the brutal deaths of 3 teenage girls. While Virginia's actions were extreme, the judge found it to be a borderline case, one that did not quite meet the threshold for a whole life order. Instead, she was initially sentenced to 40 years to life. With credit for her guilty plea, the sentence was reduced to 36 years to life. When taking into account time already served, Virginia will need to serve at least 34 years in prison before she can be considered for parole. After that, the parole board will decide whether she is safe to be released. Even if granted parole, Virginia will remain on license for the rest of her life, meaning any breach of conditions could see her immediately returned to prison. Virginia's relatives described her as a compulsive liar, a behavior that had become more apparent over the years. During the investigation and court proceedings, it was revealed that she had an unspecified personality disorder, was on the autism spectrum, and had a history of depression. She also claimed that she had been abused as a child, though her sisters strongly denied these allegations. Despite these factors, the judge determined that none of them had a direct influence on the crime. Instead, it was ruled as an act of pure financial gain. The judge pointed out that there are countless individuals with such diagnoses who do not resort to murder, particularly not the murder of their own parents. In the end, Virginia's motive was clear: greed and the desire to continue living off her parents' resources without facing the consequences. Her conditions, the judge concluded, were no excuse for the calculated and brutal nature of her actions. After Virginia McCullough's sentencing, police officials described her as a manipulative individual who showed no regard for the lives she took or the pain she caused. They emphasized that the shocking details of the case were enough to disturb even the most seasoned detectives. Prosecutors also commented on the deeply disturbing nature of the crime, highlighting how it left a trail of devastation and suffering for those close to John and Lois. They expressed hope that the sentencing would offer some comfort and a sense of justice to the victims' loved ones.
This process, from the finding of John and Lois's remains to the unravelling of McCullough's web of lies, has taken a huge toll on the wider family network. With this sentence, and with all that we have uncovered throughout our investigation, we hope they can now start to find a way forward with their lives.
The victim's family issued a heartfelt statement saying, quote, "Our family has been left devastated and heartbroken at the deaths of our parents, who were taken from us so cruelly. As we try to move forward with our lives, we will remember the happy times we enjoyed with them. Our mom and dad are forever in our hearts and are loved and missed beyond any measure." Let me know what you think of this case in the comments. Was the punishment sufficient, or could it have gone further? Does admitting guilt truly change the impact of a crime like this, or is it simply too little too late? How do you balance justice in cases like this, where the perpetrator is both a close family member and the one who caused so much pain? Can forgiveness and justice coexist when trust is betrayed at such a profound level? It's a reminder that sometimes the people closest to us can be the ones hiding the darkest secrets. And when trust is broken, the stories behind these betrayals leave their mark. Remember, every wrinkle tells a story, and in the wrinkles of crime, we find the truth. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and consider subscribing. I'd love to hear your opinions or suggestions in the comments. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for our next video, and we'll explore another story hidden within the wrinkles in crime.